Welcome back to another episode of the Basalong Cycling Show. I'm your host Sherry. Before we jump into the episode, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell button if you are watching on YouTube, and to rate the show and follow if you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps to support the channel, plus you don't miss the upcoming adventures and interesting conversations we have in store for you. And make sure to check the description below for exclusive discounts in brands like Albion, Redshift, Insta360, and more. Today, joining us from LA is Mitch Boyer. He is a successful cyclist and also YouTuber and content creator doing some crazy challenges like the Death Road in Bolivia, but we're going to talk about it later in the show. Welcome to the show, Mitch.
Thanks, Sherry. I've never been described as a successful cyclist before. That feels really good.
Well, I've seen some of the challenges you do, and I don't think I could do those steep climbs or 3 Tour de France climbs in a day, to be honest.
Oh, I bet you could. I've seen your ultra cycling videos. I don't think I could do what you do.
Thank you, but I wanted to chat with you about your journey. I mean, you do some crazy challenges like going to Bolivia to do the Death Road. How do you get these ideas, and how did you start doing these crazy things?
Oh, man. That one specifically, I was invited by a group of guys who they run this website called PJAM, P-J-A-M-M, if I can spell it out. And they were already planning to go. And so, you know, we were kind of talking about this a little bit before the call, but like sometimes on YouTube, like everything has to be super clickable. So when they said, do you want to come ride the Death Road? I was like, oh, that's clickable. So I said yes before I even really looked into it. And then it turned out to be like one of the most incredible rides of my life. It is so beautiful. Have you ridden?
No, but I would like to. To be honest, I wonder what are the biggest challenges you found. It's like, is cycling making you sick? I guess you get some altitude sickness there.
Yes, totally. I've found, because I think the summit is like 4,500 meters. And I found like above 3,500 meters, my body was not happy. I was seeing like halos around my eyes, and my breathing was getting bad. My fingers were getting tingly. And it got to the point where like every 15 minutes I had to stop, kind of like breathe. And then I'd ride again for another 15 minutes and then stop and breathe. I probably should have done some altitude training for that ride. And I'm not sure if it was like the most beautiful ride I've ever been on. I think it is, but I may have just been hallucinating because it was gorgeous.
Yeah, it tends to happen. I remember when I went bikepacking in Colombia, we were also to 4,000 meters, like stuff over there.
Yeah.
Did you do some preparation? I see you experiment a lot on your YouTube channel with different setups, with training, with nutrition. Did you do any kind of preparation before going there?
A lot of like just endurance riding, a lot of long weekend rides to kind of get ready for it. Like I mentioned, I didn't do any altitude training, and I probably should have. Only one person in our group did some altitude training, and he seemed to be the least destroyed at the end of the climb. So I think he did well. But most of my training was just like increasing my endurance hours. The thing with that ride is that it is just one long climb. The first half is in gravel, and they call it the Death Road because it's this road, the Yungas Valley Road in Bolivia, and it used to be the only road between like basically La Paz and down into this valley down below the Yungas Valley. And so buses carrying people who would be working in the city would drive on this road, and it's very, very tragic because it's so narrow. On a bike, it's not as dangerous as it is on like a wide bus when you're trying to cross. So it was actually like a very gradual, I think it was like 5% climb the whole way, and then the second half is on pavement, which is probably good because that's when I got wobbly and everything. And yeah, it was just a really beautiful long climb. So just a lot of endurance riding. LA's at sea level, obviously, so I didn't really get a lot of altitude training, but we have a lot of great mountains, so I just climbed some of my favorite climbs over and over again to prepare.
And how is cycling or gravel in LA? I guess it's quite different from here in Europe. I wonder also how you started your cycling journey and sharing your journey on YouTube. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the cycling here, I think, is criminally underrated for a big city. It's very different from cycling in the Alps. So for context for the listeners and viewers, I've ridden like in the Alps, I've ridden in Bolivia, I've ridden in New Zealand and Australia. I've never ridden the Pyrenees. I've never ridden the Sierra Madres in Spain. I've ridden the Sierra Madres here in California. And from what I hear, the terrain's actually pretty similar here. I don't know if that's why the Sierra Madres here are named that, or if it's just because the Spanish had come here first. Anyways. The riding here, I think one of the great things about LA is that it is like a major city, like one of the world's like big major cities. So you get all of the, like if there's a band that you want to watch, they're coming to tour here. There's amazing restaurants, there's amazing entertainment. My wife works in the entertainment industry, so she's able to work here. But along with all of that, we get some amazing climbs and world-class riding, and those two things coming together where like literally like we live near the middle of the city and I can ride for like 15 minutes and I'm on a climb that is like a 2,000 meter climb. I think that's something really special, and people don't really realize that LA has that all the time. That said, I mean, the Alps are the Alps. So earlier this year, I got to go to Switzerland with BMC for like the launch of one of their bikes, and I mean, you can't beat that. So I don't know. There's so many good places to ride around the world. Obviously, I'm like biased to where I live, and this is where I started cycling, so it's really, really special to me.
And how did you start your journey? Like, did you cycle before for many years, or you pick it up in LA?
I picked up road cycling and like becoming a cyclist here in LA.
Yeah.
My whole life, I'd kind of like ridden bikes. Like I had a little Specialized hard rock when I was a kid. Like one Christmas, that was like a present we all got. The whole family got bikes. But our idea of riding back then was like, ride for a half an hour as a family on the weekend, that kind of thing. And then I lived in New York for a while, and I had a fixie bike while I was there that I would commute on. And then I kind of just didn't touch a bike at all for a while until moving to LA. COVID hit. It's the classic COVID cyclist story. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? I guess I'll get a bike. I got a gravel bike.
Yes, that's the classic
and then
one.
just like everything spiraled from there. And now it's like my whole identity.
I can relate to that. I never thought being an ultra cyclist would consume my life the way it does. But
how did you get into ultra cycling? I'm curious, because I tried ultra cycling, not even really ultra cycling. I did one long ride and I was like, no way, I can't.
Well, it was kind of the same like you. I moved to the Netherlands from London, and then there was nothing to do. So we just started doing like long distance cycling routes here in the Netherlands. And then we did it quite fast, got a certificate for being the fastest. And then we were like, hey, there is a race that does the same course. Why not trying it? And then got hooked. I kind of enjoy the pain. I don't know. It's something about cycling, right? Type 2 fun.
Yeah, totally. I like the pain too, but I like it like really short. Like I find like VO2 max efforts are my favorite. If it's below 3 minutes, then like sign me up. If it's above 4 hours, I don't know. That's a different kind of pain.
Yeah, and you were talking about you did a long ride there. I think it was the loneliest road in America. Yeah. And you prepared for it. How was it? How was the experience, let's say, compared to your other challenges? Because you do a lot of like challenges that are like these short efforts, like climbing, steep climbs and everything. How does it compare to the preparation and also mentally for you?
Yeah, well, the spoiler is that's the only long test I did.
How long it was?
It was supposed to be like 24 hours straight. But I'd only been cycling for maybe like a year and a half, and I'd only been making like cycling videos for like half a year, maybe a little longer, and I was not prepared. So I just was like, I'll get myself like a construction vest, and that will be enough.
Yeah.
I can ride through the night like that. And my wife Val was being very supportive, and she was basically, I didn't ask her to be my support vehicle. Big mistake.
Yeah.
I should have like researched and been like, can you do this? So she just got dropped into this, and suddenly we're in the middle of the Nevada on this road that's called the loneliest road in America, but it's actually surprisingly busy. There's a lot of like semi trucks that drive by. So these semi trucks are flying by me in the middle of the night, and she's tired, and she's like, you know what? You need to just stop. And and I'm kind of glad she said that, because I was like, I did not want to keep riding. So I think I did like 12 hours the first day and like another 12 the next day. So I woke up really early, just continued, finished the ride, but that was it. And I was so destroyed from just those 2 days of riding that, you know, like I said, I haven't done a challenge like that since.
Yeah, I saw you did some training before it. Did you change anything, or how you normally train and prepare for challenges?
Yeah, so I work with a coach, Ryan Thomas, from the Road Cycling Academy. And the nice thing about having a coach is like, I don't really think too much about my training. We have a call, we talk about what is coming up, and then he puts it in my training peaks, and I just have to like execute the plan. That one was a while ago. I have to kind of think. I imagine it was a lot like the Death Road. It was just like a lot of long rides. And up to that point, I think the longest ride I had done, I'd ridden from like Miami down to the end of the Florida Keys, which I think was like 130 miles. And that took me, because it's in Florida, which is very, very flat, and I had a tailwind. Yeah. It was a pretty quick ride.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was very nice. I became more confident than I should have been. I thought I was really fast, and then later I realized I was like, "Oh, this is easy." So I think that ride was kind of part of the preparation, and then just a bunch of long rides. Now, when I do like really short stuff, that training is a lot more specific and tailored to the roads that I'm doing, because it's a lot more of just making sure you have the power in the legs to get up. As opposed to like, I don't know, I'd be curious to hear what you think, but like my experience with the long stuff is like, it's just fighting demons the whole time. Like after a while, it's like, I'm really good at convincing myself to stop. And maybe that's why I find ultra cycling so difficult.
Yeah, I think it's more sometimes more mental, just like keep on the bike. And as long as you do long rides and you're used to being a long time in the saddle, it's kind of fine. You cannot really burn out, you know. It's not like you easily bonk on a climb, you know, like going all out. It's like if you start disintegrating slowly, you know. And it's just like fighting through like quite steady but constant pain, but not this sharp pain sometimes, you know, when you bonk or you like go full gas. So it's like a bit of a slow torture.
A slow torture. Yeah, sounds wonderful.
Yeah, sometimes you have pains, and then you know you kind of forget about it because another pain comes, so you learn to live with the pain, you know.
Oh, that's
it's
so
like,
funny.
Now my knee pain is not that bad now that I have saddle sores and are way worse.
That's hilarious. It's funny. I have a buddy who's always like, "What a hobby we picked, man!" Like, what a
yeah.
I had a crash on Saturday, and luckily, like, nothing's broken. I've got like some pretty severe road rash, but suddenly all my normal aches and pains, like, I don't notice them anymore because I'm so acutely aware of like the little like rash on my elbow and on my back and everything. And so I was going for a ride yesterday. I was like, I actually feel kind of great because it's like a different kind of pain from like just the little things that have built up over time.
You think sometimes as cyclists we push it too much? I struggle, I think, mentally to have a rest day. I just
Uh-huh.
feel guilty like I'm gonna lose 20 watts on my FTP and I have a rest day. But your body needs it, and that sometimes leads to overtraining and injury. Do you find the same? It's like kind of hard to stop?
Yes. And I find like when I do stop, it is so hard to get going again. And so because of
Yeah.
that, like I am a little bit afraid of like, oh, like if I stop, it's all gonna spiral. Um
Yeah.
last year I just kind of like I cooked myself mentally and physically. Like I got ready. I had a lot of really cool opportunities and rides last summer, and I did a lot of training leading up to it. I worked with a nutritionist. I
Hmm.
focused on like losing weight. I got to the weight goal that I wanted. I felt like I was doing really good, but I pushed
Hmm.
myself way too hard. And when I came back
Yeah.
from that trip, I took like a week off because I thought like that's what I need. And that turned into
Yeah.
2 weeks and then 3 weeks. And then like I think I did like maybe one ride and then it was like another 2 weeks off. And all of a sudden, uh, it was like December, and I'm like, what have I done?
Yeah.
And everything spiraled. So I don't know. It's like cycling for me definitely is an addiction, and I think I've
Hmm.
come to terms with that. I think it's like as healthy as addictions can be. I mean, there are a lot worse
Yeah.
addictions to have, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so if my addiction is riding my bike for, like
Yeah.
10 to 15 hours a week, as long as it doesn't
Yeah.
affect the rest of my life in a negative way, I'm cool with that
Hmm.
addiction. I have the same feeling with coffee. Like coffee is a drug. I'm addicted to it, but I've got good supply. Uh,
That's
and,
important.
you know, so I'm not worried about running out. And cycling's the same way. Like, yeah, I'm addicted to it.
And how do you balance, let's say, like your personal life, family, and cycling and creating content? I know it takes a lot of time.
I don't. I don't. I wish I had like a good tip for that. I'm still trying to figure it out. I
Hmm.
think what I'm kind of trying to learn, and I was talking with like another YouTuber um, about this, and he's like very successful, and he's really done a good job of like balancing his life. And I was riding
Hmm.
with him, and I was asking him, I'm like, how do you do it? And he's like, I've just embraced the chaos. And so that's
Yeah.
the tip that I'm trying to take right now is like, all right, let me just embrace the chaos. When I'm excited about doing something, like focus on
Hmm.
that. Obviously make sure I'm not neglecting everything else. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I think that's kind of it's tough. Like it's like training, right? Like sometimes you're training for an event and that is everything you're
Hmm.
working on. And then the event's over and you dial back the training and you can like focus on other things in your life. It's really
Yeah.
hard with YouTube though, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel this, but I always feel like when it's been a while since I posted a video, oh, the stress and the like obligation I feel, that's really tough for me. That's
Yeah, I
harder than
think I
stopping
can
cycling.
relate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes, yeah, you feel guilty and also like you're letting people down. But sometimes you need to take a break. Is if I do an ultra race every month, I will I will destroy myself. It's not healthy.
Yeah, yeah. You've at least like I was talking with another friend of mine and he was just saying he's like you picked a good like niche because it's like I just focus on these really short efforts and
Yeah.
kind of destroy myself, but I can repeat them over and over again. An ultra cycling event is like, oh man. Yeah, you can't do one you couldn't do weekly videos for that. I don't do weekly videos for steep streets either. I've been doing them for like 3 years. I think I've only done 8 of them. So
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know what I'm
yeah.
saying.
Yeah. I think I still have no feeling in my hands and I get locked up in the bathroom of my house sometimes
Really?
because
Oh
I
man.
cannot open the door. I was like, okay, maybe I should take a break to recover. So there's definitely some damage, like maybe don't want to become long-term damage, but I think you have to evaluate that when you do these kind of challenges. And I'm curious about what you said that you were preparing for some challenges you had during the season. And you did like things with nutritionists, also
Hmm.
training plan. What's the biggest learning you took away from it and you say, oh, I didn't expect that to work, and it actually made a huge difference. Sometimes there's so many things on the internet that you try, but then you're like, oh, and some things that you don't expect it to work is like game changer.
Yeah. I think at the time, and this will sound really obvious because I feel like everybody talks about it now, I was under fueling my rides. And so just fueling my rides properly, eating a bunch of carbs, that was the biggest game changer for me. But the off-bike nutrition was just making sure I had a decent amount of protein for my body weight. And so I felt like I was eating more, and yet I was like losing weight. And I think, well, and I don't have to think, I know I was like talking with the nutritionist and I had the DEXA scans and everything. Basically, like I was just eating more meals. I was eating less sugar off the bike. I would have like a pint of ice cream at night before going to bed and everything. So it was like removing sugar off the bike, eating a bunch of protein, and a bunch of carbs also like off the bike, so that when I was on the bike, I had the energy to complete the workouts. And at the end of it, I wasn't completely destroyed and then just like gorging myself after the ride. And that was a big game changer for me with nutrition. And then with the training, it was just a bunch of, for that one, unfortunately. So I was training for this crazy road in Italy called Scanupia, which is just absolutely ridiculous. It's like 20%.
What is it, gravel?
Is it what?
Gravel?
It's paved, but it's very poor pavement. So you could call it like gravel adjacent, I guess. It's an old path that like goes up to a monastery on the side of this mountain, and it's 20% for 7 kilometers, but it has like a couple like 40% plus pitches, and I just was not, even with all my training, like I weigh 80 kilos, so like the amount of power I have to do to get up a 20% grade for 7 kilometers, I just wasn't there. And so it completely destroyed me. And then there was it's in the video, but like I didn't do enough due diligence on the road. I should have got like a local guide. So there was some drama around that. And that whole experience was like, oh man, do I want to keep doing this? But the beautiful thing about cycling in Italy is, and I didn't talk about this in the video, but I was going to go do like another steep street 2 days later. And I was like, no, there's no way. And I just went to Stelvio instead. And I spent the day like riding up Stelvio from the Bormio side. And then I went down the pass into Switzerland and went up like the proper side. And that was like a soul ride after just getting destroyed on the steep climb.
Oh, the Stelvio. I still have nightmares about it.
Oh, really?
I did it in a race, and it's because we wanted to avoid the Stelvio hiking. And then they didn't allow us to get into the national park, and then we had to do the Stelvio and a few kilometers more. And I was so cooked when I got there. I was like, oh my God. And then you see all the switchbacks from the Bormio side, and it was so hot. I was like destroyed after.
Oh no!
That climb, I think, is one of the hardest I've done, to be honest.
I bet on a race too. Yeah, I think it sounds like we had very different experiences, because I had the bike that I had prepared for the super steep climb, so I had a very easy gear ratio. I was just spinning the whole way up, and you were racing. Yeah, I probably would have the same feeling about the Stelvio if I had your experience.
Yeah, the gear ratio was not the best, to be honest. Sometimes, preparing your bike and learning, what works. Also, I see you do a lot of tests with different setups, gravel bikes and everything. What's the biggest strength you see there, and things that is like, for example, for me, like having, good gear ratio or a mallet on a gravel bike, it's been like changed my life. So what findings you see, what trends you see, like are like kind of, you are like, oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the gear ratio makes a big difference. I put my foot in my mouth early in my journey, because I was doing all these really short, steep streets, and I was like, gear ratio doesn't matter that much. because they're all like 1 minute efforts. But then once I started doing longer steep streets, I realized like, oh, gear ratio matters so much.
Yeah.
And I put a SRAM Eagle derailleur on my road bike last year, and I had a 1052 cassette on there, and that was like, I mean, that was luxurious riding up the kind of some of the steeper grades. I was riding with Cam Nichols, like another YouTuber, and we were doing like Alpe d'Huez and the Galibier and a couple other like famous rides in one day. And that gear ratio was, he was on like a traditional ratio. I think he had like a 1128 in the back. So he was grinding up some of these climbs, and I was just kind of spinning. And that was really eye-opening. So yeah, like over the longer climbs, especially, it matters on all of them, but over the longer climbs, like gear ratio matters a lot. For the stuff I do, lightweight does matter, but it's always hard because, again, like I'm 80 kilos. So, you know, the percentage of total like rider bike weight that I lose by making a lightweight bike is pretty low, but I do still kind of feel it when I'm trying to like spin up a really steep street. So
what's the lightest bike build you ever done?
Well, I'm working on one
for
right
the weight
now.
Weenies.
So no, I should be able to get it to the UCI limit for this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the lightest bike I've ever ridden was 6.7 kilos, which is light. It's super, super light. In my opinion, it's more light than anybody really needs. But it's for weight weenies, they'd be like, you barely surpassed the UCI limit. I watch a lot of like Rides of Japan, and he's got that like
me
sticker.
Too,
oh yeah,
me too. I love it.
It's so fun
because
to
he
watch.
weights everything and he puts so much detail and so cinematic. The intro.
I know.
It's like kind of my reference for YouTubers.
His like the precision in his bike builds and in his videos is incredible. I feel like I'm like you know, the Tasmanian devil from like Looney Tunes. Like I feel like that's kind of my vibe. Like I'm just like spinning around hoping things, and he's so precise. I'm like, man, I wish I was like that. Yeah, I love his videos.
Sometimes I watch the videos and I wish I could do an intro like this.
Yeah, he has like the nice lighting and the epic music, and yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, but it's another world. I think sometimes, like, you're obsessed with weight. For example, for you, makes sense with the steep climbs, but there's always this debate, like, weight versus aero. I'm always like a bit torn about it because I do long distances, and sometimes you have like front wind and you can take a lot of time. And I live in the Netherlands, so I'm used to flats, and everybody here's like use aero bars on the weekends. And then you have some alpine passes like Alpe d'Huez, etc. And then you're like, I wish I had that lightweight bike. So it's always kind of, you have to compromise a little bit.
Yeah. Unless you're like Tade and you have that new Colnago where he got it down to 6.8 on the TT. But I don't have like $25,000 to drop on a bike, so it's, you know.
Yeah, start 3D printing, aero fairings, etc. I think it's quite fun to work on the setups yourself. There's always something to improve. I think that's something really cool from cycling. There's always something you can learn, you can improve. Keeps it fun, right?
Yeah. Do you have a favorite upgrade that you've made on your bikes?
It's always my aero bars.
Oh, nice.
I think it's the thing that people ask me the most. It's like, what are those aero bars? Because it's like a full arm, so they are like quite spacey, but they're also quite comfortable. You can literally fall asleep during races on it. It's like,
wow. I've never tried them. I imagine, like after a while, your wrists get sore, your hands get numb to like go in those like aero bars. Probably does feel really nice.
Yeah, and the trend here in the Netherlands is like you have to, you know, if your Strava is like less than 30 per hour, it's like you don't even post it.
Really?
So normally people go with the train one direction to go with the wind because it's always windy and flat. Yeah. So they can get like crazy speeds and then post it on Strava.
That's so funny. That's interesting. Yeah. Here it's all about elevation. Like you just have to make sure you have, if you don't, so it's all like imperial, right? So miles and feet. And so if the first two digits of your miles and your climb in feet are equal, that's the baseline. And if your climb is higher, so for example, like if you do 20 miles and 2,000 feet of climbing, that's okay. But if you do 20 miles and 4,000 feet of climbing, that's kind of like the Strava flex here as opposed to like average speed.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, and so that's why you pick up the niche of like doing steep climbs.
It's so I was looking for a YouTube video to do one day, and I was in this program where they're like post every week, and so it was Thursday, and I'm like, the week's almost over, I got to post, and I found out there were 3 of the steepest streets in the U.S. are literally like 4 blocks that way.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, oh, this is perfect. But I had no context of like how steep they were. And so I was like, I'll go. And so Friday morning I went out and I did them. And I went up the first one and then I went up the second one and I puked because I was just like, it was a full effort. And then I just went and did one more. I didn't even make it to the 4th street. And that video was my best performing video ever. And I was like, well, I guess this is what I'm doing now. It just kind of grew
What
from there.
were the gradients?
The first one is Fargo. It's 34% the entire way. The second one's Baxter. That's 32%. And then the last one's called Eldred. And that one is 33. The official is 33.3. But I've found with steep streets around the world, GPS is not always very accurate, especially in cities. So city streets, the GPS can be a little wonky. So like sometimes you look down and your computer will say like 48%, and it's not 48%. And other times it'll say like 20%. You're like, this feels a lot harder than 20%. So I for the next video, I tried to get this company to sponsor, and they're like, no. So I just bought it. It was kind of expensive, like $800 measuring device. It's like a professional measuring device for grades. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to start measuring all the stuff and see if like what the actual gradients are, because everywhere I go, people are like, this street has got to be the steepest you ride. And it's so hard because based on like your current fitness or how you're feeling, or like, did you sleep well? Did you feel well? Like using yourself as a barometer to tell how steep a street is not a good barometer, I've found. So now I've got a device, and I should be able to have like a consistent way to measure all these streets. And I'm really excited to go back. I bring it up because
have you found the steepest one in the world?
So I don't think I have. I know. Well, I don't know, but I have a suspicion on which one is actually the steepest I've ridden, and it's the very first street I ever rode. It's this one called Fargo, a couple blocks from there, and the Strava segment says 34, but Google has a topographic database where they measure the topography of everything, and they say 54.4%. And it is every time I ride it, I'm like, oh, this is a whole different level. So I'm really excited to take that measurement device and I'll see. But I don't think that's the steepest, just because there's so many steep city streets in highly developed areas, and then you go to a place that's not as developed, and some of the streets there, like when I was in La Paz, there's definitely streets in La Paz that were steeper. And and you're at like 3,800 meters. So I was afraid to try any of them there. I have to go back. So I've started making a list. I've got a little form people can fill out to submit a street.
Oh, cool.
And I've started making a list. And my goal now is like, I want to go to these streets that people invite me to, go ride the street with them, measure it. I want to ride like in their city, see what cycling culture is like where they are, maybe do like a group ride and like check out their local cafe and that kind of thing. And that's what I'm hoping the next iteration for steep streets is. And then maybe we'll actually find the steepest street, but I got to set up criteria because what is a street? There's so many, like Guinness says you have to have buildings on both sides, and one of them has to be residential, and they measure like the average of like 10 meters at least, and I got to make my own criteria, I guess.
Oh, well, so I will leave a link to the list, please.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that would be great.
Steep one, so Mitch has to do it.
Yes, punish me,
and
please.
Check out his channel. I will leave it in the link in the description. And what's next for you? Any exciting plans for the rest of the year?
I think I'm going to go to Barcelona. First time for me going there. Oh. I've got somebody invited me to a steep street for that.
Wow.
And then I'm going to try to go to Colombia in December. My wife's family is from Barranquilla. And but I've never cycled in Colombia, so I'm going to try to go to Medellin. Maybe I'll find some streets around there. And then we're going to have the holidays in Barranquilla, and I probably will not ride my bike for a while. That's the plan the rest of the year.
Oh, wow, that's really exciting. Yeah, in Colombia, you definitely find steep streets. When I went cycling there, I was like, oh my God, it's like all the time up and down, up and down. And you get really fit with altitude training just by packing. I came back here and like my FTP was 20 watts higher. I was like,
wow. Nice. Maybe so in January I should take some big rides then. Oh man.
Yeah. Definitely. So thank you so much. And for the listeners, I will link your YouTube channel. I'll please submit really steep streets in Colombia so you can tackle over there. Will be fun to see. And thank you so much for sharing your journey and insights with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me on. Great talking with you.